everybody. My name's Dana. I think I know most of you. I'm a physiotherapist here at Baldwin Sports and Physiotherapy Centre. And welcome back to virtual reality or virtual realm here at Baldwin. We are in lockdown 6. So today's session is going to be very much about trying to create some relaxation in the body and reduce the stress and tension that builds in our pelvic floor diaphragm, as well as our breathing diaphragm. So our pelvic floor is automatically hardwired to protect us. So it will detect stress in our body before our even conscious level of awareness occurs that we are stressed. So I'm going to show you some mobility exercises to release tension in the pelvic floor. There'll also be a little bit of breathing involved. So we are looking at the top and bottom of our core, our diaphragm and our pelvic floor. And to get you connected back into this virtual way of doing exercises, we are going for a 10 by 10 series. So 10 exercises by 10 repetitions. And you can choose to run them as many times as you like, but at least you know you've got a short, sharp package to just work on a specific area. Okay, so you can see I'm sitting in a chair. Our number 1 exercise, pelvic tilts. And most of us know pelvic tilts is a really nice way to relax our spine and unlock our spine joints, but it can also be used to release tension in the pelvic floor. So I'll get you to find yourself sitting on a chair, okay? Feel those sit bones that you are sitting right on top of, okay? You can also do this on a Swiss ball if you are more comfortable there. Okay, so sitting right on top of your sit bones. Okay, then what I want you to start with is just feel like you roll off your sit bones towards the back part of those bones. And you end up in a bit of a slump. Okay, now bring yourself up and over those sit bones so that you roll towards the front of them. Okay, so it's a little posterior tilt. Your pelvis almost goes for a little tuck under. And then you roll back on top and your back goes into a little bit of an arch and your pelvis tips forward. So I'm going to do that sideways. So you can see, so I'm right on top of those sit bones now. And you're going to roll back off those sit bones and the low back sort of curls a little bit. Your pelvis tips back. And then you roll forward and you can see it creates a little bit of an arch in the back. Okay, so now we've got the motion going. I'm going to bring your attention to the pelvic floor a little bit more. Okay, so think about those sit bones that you're rolling back. Now, when you roll back, imagine those sit bones come together a little bit. They draw together with your pelvic floor. Then you roll forward, and as you roll forward, those sit bones spread wide apart, and you get a bit of a stretch from sit bone to sit bone. As you roll back, the sit bones come together. If you can imagine, they're being drawn together by the pelvic floor muscles. And then when you roll forward, they're separating and stretching. Okay? So just do a few more of those and let that awareness start to occur between the sit bones. All right. Now I want you to think about your pubic bone in front and your tailbone, your coccyx in the back. When we roll backwards, imagine that your tailbone is tucking under and coming towards your pubic bone. When you roll forwards, your tailbone comes out the back and there's a greater distance from the pubic bone to the tailbone. They come together. And then they stretch apart. So we've got a few things going on. As you roll forward over your sit bone, your back arches, your tailbone moves away and lengthens away from the pubic bone, and your sit bones spread apart. When you roll back into your tilt, your sit bones come together your tailbone moves towards your pubic bone. Okay, so just nice and slowly. Once you've got the hang of this, you can just go into your 10 repetitions, stretching out through that pelvic floor. When our pelvic floor gets tight, it shortens and starts to pull on our low back and our hips. Okay, lovely. Exercise number 2. Come onto your hands and knees for cat and cow. Now we know this one again for spinal mobility, but here we're going to think about those sit bones and those tailbones and what's happening in our pelvic floor. So let's just start neutral, okay? Then what we're going to do, we're going to tuck our tailbone under. It's coming towards our pubic bone in front. Our sit bones are drawing together. And then we're going to release and stretch our tailbone out the back, away from our pubic bone. Stretch those sit bones wide apart, shining them out to the back wall. That's the stretch. And then tuck, curl it in. And then release it out. Stretch out through those sit bones. And again, curl it in. And stretch. If you want to add the breathing in, breathe out as you curl. Inhale as you stretch. Exhale, curl. Inhale, stretch. Let's go for 4 more. Exhale, curl. Inhale, stretch. Exhale, tuck it all under. Inhale, release it all out. 1 more. Exhale, tuck. Inhale, release. Now the breathing has specifically been given in that direction because it's about the respiratory diaphragm working with the pelvic floor. So that's why I gave you the breathing in that direction. Okay, let's come down onto your mat. We are going to go back to our pelvic tilt that we were doing in the chair. This is just another position to think about that tilting. So start quite relaxed and quite neutral. Then we're going to go into our posterior or our backwards tuck, where we feel like we're tucking our tailbone under towards our pubic bone. We are drawing our sit bones together and then roll the other way. Release that tailbone right down to the floor. Feel like you're spreading those sit bones wide apart. And yes, you get a little arch in your back. So tuck under, everything draws together. And then release and stretch it out. So going backwards and then forwards, stretching. Backwards, pelvis tilts, sit bones come together, and then release and stretch it all wide apart. Now we can bring the breathing into this position again as well. Okay. So as you tuck back, breathe out. As you release and stretch, inhale. Inhale all the way down to your pelvic floor. Exhale, tuck. Bring the tummy a little bit if you want. Inhale, stretch. Good, let's go for 3 more. Inhale, stretch. Exhale, tuck. Inhale, stretch. Exhale, tuck. And then just relax. Very good. Okay, now we're going to go into 3 different stretches around the hips and around the glutes. And it also stretches into some of the pelvic floor muscles. Okay, our first will be a glute stretch, which we know. You cross one ankle over the knee. okay? And that might be enough of a stretch for you here. If you want to increase the stretch, you can always bring your hands through the legs and pull it in a little bit further, keeping that knee nice and wide. And let's hold for a good 20 seconds. Now, we're talking 10 by 10, but in this exercise, which is your number 4 exercise, you can just hold for 20 seconds. But we've got 3 different ones. Okay, let's stay on this same side, but this time, if you can, depends on your hip and knee joint, pop your hands underneath the knee and bring your knee right in towards your chest. Okay? Then take one hand out and take it to the outside of the ankle. And you are going to pull that ankle across to the other side of your body. So just holding that there. So keep the knee in very close and towards your shoulder. And hold. Now we're just going to take that into our third variation. I want you to just see if you can rotate that hip. So you're pulling that foot even more across your body rather than tucked in here. It's a bit more across to the other side of the body. Still try and keep that knee tucked in. So this becomes more like a pigeon pose if you know yoga. And this is really getting into our pelvic floor. So 20-second hold of all of these. All right, let's do that on the other leg. I'm going to turn around so you can see. First stretch into our glutes. All right, take it to whatever level feels good for you. You can always push out a little bit on that knee too. You want to take it a bit further. Draw it in. And just let it release out and stretch. Try and enjoy this. Don't take it to a point where you're really fighting it. Whole thing here is to try and relax all through the pelvis. Okay. Now, take that leg in towards your chest. Then you're going to bring that foot closer towards the midline of your body, heading towards the other side. Going into a bit more of a piriformis stretch, which exits the pelvis, goes across the pelvis. It's very close to the sciatic nerve, so if this muscle gets very tight, sometimes you get a bit of pressure on that nerve and feel a bit of buttocks pain. All right, now let's take it into a bit more specifically the pelvic floor. So you're going to bring that foot out even wider. Try and keep this knee tucked in towards your chest. You don't want to drift out this way. So keep it there and then pull that foot out more into the pigeon pose. And just take note of where you feel these stretches. Can you feel them in different positions? In the buttocks. All right, very nice. Okay, come onto your side. This is a bit more about thoracic mobility, this exercise, but we need our thoracic spine to be mobile so that our diaphragm can get its full excursion and breathe. Okay, so you're going to come onto your side and we're going to do bow and arrow. All right, just rest your head. You might want a little pillow under here just to keep your neck in a better alignment. Top hand is resting on the bottom one, knees are bent. You're going to bend this elbow and just rotate into your thoracic spine there. Keep the hips relatively stacked. So it's really just occurring in that upper part of your thoracic spine. And then retrace your hand position. Reach out and draw it back. Bow and arrow, like you're about to fire a bow and arrow off. And when you're here, take the opportunity to breathe. And pause nice and slowly.
if we can keep our thoracic spine nice and mobile too, it'll free up some of our neck muscles. When we get stressed, we switch into breathing with our upper neck muscles rather than our diaphragm. Good, 2 or 3 more. Feels good to stretch and open up the thoracic spine, particularly if we've been stressed over a desk. All right, let's swap sides.
Okay, can you see me? Yes, you can.
All right,
Reaching your bow and arrow, open up through the chest. And it might feel quite stiff initially to begin with. Just allow the repetitions to loosen off your upper back for you.
I have a lot more range on this left side than my right side. My right side is my dominant side, and you might find that your dominant side holds a lot more tension and tightness. Good. Maybe 3 more, depending on how slow you've been mobilizing. Slow is good. Chance to hit pause on the rush, rush, rush. Stress, stress, stress. Good. You might have 1 left to go. Okay. Then just rolling back onto your back. I keep swapping sides so that you can see me through the camera. Okay. We are just going to release out the neck with a simple exercise called chin nods. But again, as I mentioned, we can overwork through our neck muscles if we're stressed, and breathing up here rather than down here in our diaphragms. So pop your fingers just underneath the base of your skull. Okay, exercise number 6, chin nods. And here, I just want you to feel like you slide those head bones away from your neck, and it drops your chin slightly, so you find length at the back of the neck, and then let those bones glide close to the back of the neck or the base. It's probably easier if you just have a little look first and then have a feel. But it's like your head is this big round ball, and it's just slowly rolling backwards and then forwards. And as it rolls forwards, it creates length at the back of the neck, opens up the joints, and gives all those structures like the nerves and the discs some space. That's it. So just simple chin nods. If you've got one of those small Pilates oak balls, they're only 10 to 20 centimeters in diameter, you can put them underneath your head to do this exercise. Have them half deflated, and it provides really nice feedback. That's it. And on your last one, your 10th one, just hold it in that lengthened position. There's not too much tension in the front of the neck. You've really just rolled the ball to create space in the back of the neck without too much effort. So we're not trying to grip. Good. Okay. So keep that neck in a nice lengthened position, and you're going to go into hip rolls here, which starts off with our pelvic tilts that we did earlier in the class. So you're going to roll the pelvis back. Feel like you tuck your tailbone in, the sit bones come together, and then you're going to keep peeling yourself off the mat, releasing tension in that low back. And now rolling down. So again, you know this exercise really well for spinal mobility. let's just think about the pelvic floor a little bit more with it. So as you roll down, I want you to take it all the way where your tailbone feels like it rolls right down to the mat. Your sit bones spread apart and you're stretching the pelvic floor. Now reverse, tilt, tuck the tailbone under. Draw those sit bones together and keep peeling yourself off the mat. Little pause at the top, then rolling down, starting with the thoracic spine, working your way through. And as you start to touch down through the pelvis, think about rolling that tailbone away from the pubic bone in front, stretching those sit bones wide apart. And again, let's keep going. You've got 10 of these. I'll give you the breathing for it in a minute as well. Good. Release all the way into your stretch. Take a big breath in here while you're stretching. Now, as you breathe out, roll through your tuck. At the top, you can hold and take a nice breath in. And then start to roll down. As you go into your stretch, breathe in. Going into that forward tilt. Breathe out as you tuck under and curl up. Inhale at the top. Exhale, roll back down. And release. Inhale here while you're stretching. Exhale, last one, rolling up. And then rolling down. Okay, stay in this position. We are going to do another breathing exercise. Now, this is where you could get one weight. Let me just duck out with the screen for a second. You could get a weight and do this with a weight. Otherwise, you can just, doesn't matter what weight you've got. This one's particularly heavy. If you don't have a weight, you are just going to take your arms overhead. And this is where we are going to stay. And when we're staying here like this, I'll explain why we are. Okay? So either just in your power pose with your arms, or you can hold the weight and slowly take it overhead. Okay. And we're just going to stay here. All right? If you've got a weight, you might start to shake, which is absolutely fine. If you have any shoulder issues, obviously you don't want to take a weight into your hands unless you've checked with one of us first, so that's okay. Okay, so while we have our arms overhead like this, we have taken the ability of our neck muscles out of, well, the ability for our neck muscles to breathe. We've taken it out because we're using them in this shoulder exercise. So it makes the only option available for breathing in our diaphragm, which is where we want it. So I'll say that again. It's a bit confusing. Because we've taken the arms overhead, we've sequestered our accessory breathing muscles, which are attached to our neck. So the body goes, right, I need to breathe here. My option is to use my diaphragm. And it's a really nice way to get our diaphragm breathing properly. Okay. Slowly coming up. Because I've got the weights, I've got the shakes. Whew, very good. We're not going to do 10 repetitions here. What I'd rather you do is just 3 really slow ones, holding for 30 seconds. Over time, this is something you could build up to, even holding for about 3 minutes. And you possibly can hear me breathing really a bit more deeply here. I'm going to call that 30 seconds just for the sake of the video. Slowly returning. We have got one more. And when you're ready, slowly taking the arms overhead. And hold. And coming up. Very good. Okay, rolling onto your side. Now this is the same sort of concept, but we're doing it in side lying so we can get into our side of our lungs. So if you've got a little weight here, you only need 1 kilo. You don't need to go as heavy because we're back down to one arm. But find yourself in the side lying position. Okay, you're going to take this arm overhead and you're going to hold it this way. And you're just going to stay there and breathe. So give the breath the chance to get down into the side of your lungs. Feel those ribs expand up towards the ceiling. And again, we would aim for 3 lots of 30 seconds here. Okay. I'm just going to swap to this other side. You could hit pause on your recording here to get a couple extra 30 seconds in. Yes. So taking the arm overhead and just breathing into the sides of your ribs. And slowly coming up. Very good. Okay, our last exercise is called constructive rest. This is where, if you've got your chair, I'll get you to grab it. You could put a Swiss ball underneath your legs. You could use a coffee table. But you're going to come down onto your back and just pop your legs up onto the chair so that they're completely supported and relaxed. Okay, this is called constructive rest. Having the legs up on the chair is really helpful for the drainage of our lymph and our blood, which tends to pool in our pelvis. Okay, it's called sump pump. It's a good position for that. And yogis have been doing it for years with their legs up the wall. Okay, so in this position, I want you to turn your palms up, relax your neck and close your eyes. And here, you're going to do 5 really nice deep breaths in. Imagining that your whole rib cage is like a big balloon. And when you breathe in, it expands in 3D in all directions. Up towards the ceiling, out to the sides, down into the low back, down into your pelvic floor. And this is where you're going to spend your last 5 breaths, your last 5 minutes, hitting pause on any stress, allowing your nervous system to completely regulate, get out of its fight or flight mode, and come into its rest and digest state. All right. So you stay here. Thank you very much for joining me for this release and stretch through the diaphragms in the pelvis and in our breathing. And I hope you found it helpful to switch off any tension that may have built up in your body. Thank you.